welcome back to my channel. This is erucarose and I make videos about a lot of things, including astrology. So when I started looking into astrology and learning, I would have loved for someone to have laid all this out for me. And that's how I hope to continue making these videos. As if I'm just explaining to my friend how astrology works. So if I say something that isn't quite the way you would do it, or not the interpretation you've heard before, that's okay. There are several different types of astrology and every astrologer works slightly differently. Now, I say that, but there is a consistent theme to each aspect, and there is a strategy to it. So again, there are different types of astrology. I'll describe a few, but know that this is inherently a controversial subject, and I just want to throw it out there that I love and appreciate each form of astrology. I know a lot of astrologers like their one type. I know a lot of astrologers only choose one form of astrology, and some astrologers will spend their time arguing with other astrologers over what's the right one, but I have studied a lot of different forms, and I feel that they all have their purpose. Okay, so the two types of astrology that clash the most often are the Vedic astrology, which is also called sidereal astrology. That clashes with Western or tropical astrology. The main difference you'll notice between these two is if you look up your chart, the signs may differ because Vedic astrology, they account for this 72-year 1 degree shift over time, and if you want to learn more about that, you go ahead and look at another video specifically about defining Vedic astrology. There are tons of good videos out there. I would just recommend avoiding any kind of argumental, conflict, hate videos, because they're not going to show you the true side of it, right? They're arguing against it. So I like to see all sides of all of them. So then tropical astrology, Western astrology, is more season-based, and it has to do with the patterns of the year, and you can go and look at videos more explaining that too. Just again, one is not better than the other. They both have their own purposes. You'll probably also discover draconic astrology as you start researching, and draconic astrology is, simply put, the astrology of your soul. So the idea is that your soul has its own traits that get sort of overridden when you come into this body, this birth chart, this natal chart that you were born into. So your soul energy, like for example, mine is sun sign Pisces, so my Pisces soul came down and came into my Scorpio natal chart, and it takes time for you to really get used to that natal chart, and because you kind of come into yourself the older you get, and it's a lot about that. So if you're interested about what your soul is like, it's a good one to look at. Moving along. I had to talk about that a little bit. I have had a lot of people ask me questions about, I looked up my chart and like I said I was this, but then it also said I was this, and I don't know what I am. And I was like, well, there's a good chance you looked at different like calculators when you did it. So if you go to a site to look it up, or go to an astrologer to look it up, try to figure out what type of astrology they're using. So if you look up your chart, where should you start looking, right? I think most people will say, look at your sun, moon, ascendant. And the more astrology has gotten popular, I have noticed more and more people are telling everyone their sun, moon, ascendant. My sun, moon, ascendant. And that's fantastic. I love that people are getting past solely their sun sign, and they're looking at more of their chart. I think that people do get caught up in the sun, moon, ascendant thing, and they don't look past it enough at times, because when it comes down to it, you shouldn't isolate anything on your chart. It needs to be a whole picture of your chart, and that's one problem I have with these calculators, and I think they're amazing because everyone should have access to see what's on their chart. But I think when they give you descriptions and everything, and if something's cusping, it doesn't necessarily tell you that it's cusping. Or if you have a really major theme in your chart, it's not going to notice that. Any big picture thing on your chart, those calculators aren't going to tell you that. And sometimes that's the most vital thing that you need to hear about your chart, or that you will recognize and feel validated by your chart. So, and you might not even feel like your chart made sense to you without someone being able to tell you that big picture. A lot of people I've heard, they looked up their chart and they didn't really feel like it made sense to them and whatever. But if you had a professional look at it, it would make a world of difference, I promise. So if you're going to look at your chart, one thing to do is take note of any cusps. And a cusp is when a planet is close to the line to another sign. So a lot of people, I have a friend who is born on October 22nd, and she is a Libra, but that is also the last day of Libra. So she is right on the cusp for Scorpio, and she has other Scorpio placements on her chart, but she is definitely leaning Scorpio. You will take on traits from that other sign. Take note of any cusps, they're very important. You will also have cusps on houses and yeah, anyway. And I can make more videos about cusping placements. I don't need to go on in this video about cusping. The sun, moon, ascendant is the simplest way you can look at your chart and start your research. Don't end it there. That's my point, because it is more complicated than your sun, moon, and ascendant. Your energy is determined by your entire zodiac chart over the entire span of your life. So again, if something is happening and it's isolated, if you're isolating a placement, that's not good. If you're feeling something temporarily, if you're taking on a trait temporarily, it's most likely a transit thing, and it's not something that's in your chart. So something is being influenced by the current planet statuses in the sky. So your lifelong traits are going to be on this chart, and you can grow throughout those traits. So just saying like, oh, you're a whatever sign, so you're bossy, maybe they are bossy at that point, and if they become unbossy later, it's because they grew and into a more evolved form of that sign, not that they all of a sudden are a different person, you know? Every part of your chart is there for a reason. After your sun, moon, ascendant, I would highly recommend looking at your north node. A lot of people, I don't think, realize how important the north node is. To find your north node, you want to look at your chart. If you have it in front of you, that's amazing. Look at your chart and look for a horseshoe this direction. So it's like it's pointing up, and it's like a cup that's flipped over. Yep. You need to look at the house and the sign that is in, and that will tell you a ton about especially the second half of your life. But as soon as you feel that you're trying to move towards some sort of life purpose, that's where you're going to be looking. The north node is your life purpose. It is where you want to go in life. Oh my goodness. It is things that you are constantly interested in, things you're drawn to. It's ultimately something you cannot completely achieve. In some astrologers' minds, it is something because it's something you're constantly striving for. So it's not that you can't reach it. It's just that you are going to constantly be working and improving in this area. And so it really becomes what your life is about, and it is your destiny. If you're more interested in North Node, I can talk more about North Node in another video. When you look on the opposite side of that chart, the other horseshoe that's the other direction, that is your South Node. And I'm using tropical terms, and Vedic it's Rahu and Ketu. And your South Node will tell you about the first half of your life, or your past life, really all of those things. It can also tell you about things where you're comfortable in life, things you already know as a human. You don't need to go and discover these things. You inherently know these things. Your South Node is going to be things that you are not drawn to. So it's things that don't, these are things that don't work out for you in your life. So if you keep trying to move towards where your south node is, you are really not going to get far in life. You're going to just feel like you're getting beaten down and like the world's against you. And typically people don't want to be more like their south node. If you strive for your south node, you'll find there's nowhere to go. Head towards your north node and try to integrate the skills from your south node to bring you farther towards your north node. Another thing that I recommend looking at if you're just now getting into your chart, look at your midheaven. Your midheaven is sort of how you want to come off and how you create a presence online. So one other thing I think you should look at if you are just approaching your chart, you need to look at what is in your first house and the ruler of your first house. These are very important planets for you. These will, in a way, dictate your life, along with any stellium. A stellium is when you have 3 or more planets in one sign, or one house. You can have a house stellium as well. And so these will show an emphasis in an area. For example, on my chart, I have how many planets in Scorpio? Let me check. Let me look. 5. 5 planets. I have 5 planets in Scorpio. And then my North Node and Mars are almost in Scorpio. They're on the cusp in Sagittarius. So they're all like right up there. I also have like a 9th house stellium and a 10th house stellium, and that means I lean on Scorpio energy a lot. I lean on this 9th house, 10th house energy a lot. This cusping Scorpio Sagittarius energy. If something is like, if you're looking to see how someone will react, they're going to lean on that energy. Again, they will also lean on the energies of their rulers, their first planet and their ruling first house planet. So for me, it's easiest to use myself as an example because I know my chart the best. So says me who had to look it up a second ago. Okay, so for me, my first planet is Saturn, and 1 degree after that is the moon. So I have a lot of things happening there. I will lean on that Saturn a lot. I identify with that Saturn. And then my rising is Aquarius. Through Aquarius, I have influences of Uranus and traditionally Saturn. So that is more Saturn, and that is Uranus, which is a fun planet. They will be strong impactors of my chart. That's what I'm getting at. So be sure to look at ruling planets. You'll see different astrologers probably have more than one way to determine a ruling planet. I think ruling planet is a sort of a vague term. But that's sort of how all spirituality and religious things are. You know, they all are sort of the same, like different words for the same things, and I think it's important, especially online, not to take people too literally. You know, I think it's important to be able to grasp the concepts and the energies, because ultimately this is speaking about energy. Next, you want to look at the rest of your houses, planets, and aspects. And there are a lot of these, I know. You need to learn what all of the aspects are. You need to learn what they mean. You need to learn what the houses mean. You need to learn what the planets do and how they influence each sign. And then after you get really far looking into the natal charts and how they work, then you can get into and then you oh my god, then you can get into transits and synastry readings. So this video was just to give you a brief overview of how to approach your chart. I can go deeper into this if you would like instructions on how to really research your chart and learn step by step more about your chart. Again, when I started looking into astrology, I felt like I was getting little bits and pieces thrown at me from different directions, and I didn't have an overview really of what to look for. So I tried to provide that here today for you, and I would have loved for someone to have made a video similar to this when I started in astrology, so here it is. And that's how I, again, will continue making these videos. I think my best interpretations are when I ramble and I'm not trying too hard. I think that is sort of the antithesis of how you need to be on YouTube now these days, but whatever. I'm definitely going to be structuring these rambles a little bit so they are not earblood, but I want to maintain being in a flow. So these videos that are coming up about astrology are very exciting, but they will be a little bit more of a flowy format, so you are aware. Go ahead and send me any astrology questions you have. I will reply directly or in a video. Like, subscribe, follow me on Insta at erucarose. You can check out the shop's Instagram, which is now up and running. The shop should be open soon. I don't have an exact date, but I'm very, very, very excited. We have a lot of new things that we're going to be adding that we've never had before. You can check out the links in the description as well. Thank you. Do all the things. Bye. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not. I can't. I'm done. I'm just being weird. All right, bye. Yeah.